Good evening and welcome to VOP TV News and Reports. I am David Edwin. Tonight, court orders federal government to pay $100 million to ex-Cbn Governor Emefiele for unlawful detention.
EFCC invites suspended Humanitarian Affairs Minister Betta Edu over palliative funds diversion.
Peter Obi says leadership failure threatens Africa's growth.
And more stories on business, entertainment and sports updates.
Now the news in full. A High Court of the Federal Capital Territory FCT sitting in Maitama has ordered the federal government to pay the sum of 100 million naira to the embattled former governor of the CBN of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, for violating his fundamental right. The court, in a judgment that was delivered on Monday by Justice Olukayode Adeniyi, declared as illegal and unconstitutional the prolonged detention of Emefiele in custody of security agencies without trial. It held the federal government, through its agency, flagrantly breached Emefiele's rights that are enshrined in the 1999 Constitution as amended. Consequently, it restrained federal government and its agents from rearresting or detaining him again without an order of court. The judgment followed the fundamental right enforcement suit that the Ex-Cbn boss filed to query the legal property of his prolonged detention in custody of the Department of State Service DSS. He had, among other things, prayed the court to award him damages to the tune of 1 billion naira. Recall that President Bola Tinubu had on June the 9th suspended Mr. Emefiele from office as the governor of the central bank. He was later arrested at his Lagos residence by DSS operatives. Mr. Emefiele has since then faced a 2-count charge of illegal possession of a firearm and ammunition before the Federal High Court in Lagos, as well as another corruption charge that federal government entered against him before the Abuja High Court. The former CBN boss was consequently transferred to the EFCC, which on November the 28th, 2023, docked him on a 6-count charge that bordered on his alleged involvement in procurement fraud.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has invited the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, to its headquarters located in Jabi, Abuja, over an alleged 585 million naira scandal. The invitation came less than an hour after the President Bola Tinubu announced Dr. Edu's suspension from office through the special advisor to the president and media and publicity, Ajuri Ngelale. An EFCC source who confirmed the development to newsmen revealed that the anti-graft agency's chairman, Ola Olukoyede, had earlier recommended the suspension of the minister to the president to pave the way for proper investigation. The source further noted that the commission swung into action immediately after the president ordered a thorough investigation into the alleged payment of 585.189 million naira grant meant for vulnerable groups in Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Ogun and Lagos State into a private bank account.
The Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has led protests over continuous killing in Plateau State and other parts of the country. The protest, tagged Plateau Peace Walk, was led by the state's CAN chairman, Reverend Polycarp Lubo, ECWA President, Reverend Dr. Stephen Baba Panya, Coursing President, Reverend Dr. Amos Mozo, Catholic Bishop of Jos, Most Reverend Matthew Audu. Other leaders of the protest were Methodist Bishop of Jos, Reverend Nkechi Mosu, as well as the President Gideon and Fumi Paramalam Peace Foundation, Reverend Dr. Gideon Paramalam, among other prominent Christian leaders in the state. The protesters started the peace walk at the PRTVC roundabout in Jos around 9:30 a.m. and headed to the Rayfield Government House, where they were received by top government officials, including the State Governor Caleb Mufwang, Chairman of the Denominational Leaders Forum in Plateau State and National Vice President of CAN, Reverend Stephen Baba Panya. In a protest, later he handed over to the governor for onward delivery to President Bola Tinubu, said the Christians and people of Plateau State were not happy over the continued attack and killings in the state. Urban Pioneer, who recalled how villagers in their communities, including children, were brutally murdered in their homes during the Christmas Eve attacks, noted that for many years, Christians in Plateau State had come under persistent attack and killings without any decisive action taken to stop the killing. He said a situation whereby the military and all the security agents had failed to protect the people against terror attacks and at the same time would not allow the victims to defend themselves against the invasion of their communities in the height of injustice against the people.
The Labour Party candidate during the February 25 presidential election, Mr. Peter Obi, says Africa's growth and development may be impossible if the leaders do not get their acts right. He said if the continent does not deal with its only challenge, which he claimed was leadership failure, achieving the needed development and growth may be near possible. Obi said in a series of posts on his Obi disclosed this in a series of posts on his X handle today. He stated that unfortunately, Africa's growth and development will continue to appear as an impossible dream if we do not deal with the only challenge facing Africa's leadership failure. The former Anambra State governor explained that while the continent is blessed with abundant human and natural resources, leadership failure had been its stumbling block. According to him, to paraphrase late Professor Achebe's ageless words in Nigeria, the trouble with Africa is simply a squalene leadership problem caused mainly by the unwillingness of African leaders to rise to their leadership responsibilities. He alleged that governments across the continent have become gigantic criminal enterprises. Still to come are more stories after the break. Stay with us. It's no longer news that the NNPCL plan to increase the price of petrol to reflect the current market condition and ensure the sustainability of the petroleum industry. The proposed increase aims to address the challenges faced by the corporation and support its operations. However, the NNPCL has debunked the news, saying there is no plan to increase the price of petrol anytime soon. Today, VOP TV is out here on the street to hear what the people have to say on this.
And this has always been what we've experienced in Nigeria as a nation. First, you hear some rumor, then before you know it, you start seeing it getting close. You know, I remember during the time of Obasanjo's regime, the former president of Nigeria was saying that Nigerians could afford to buy a bottle of beer for 250 naira, 200 naira those days, and they can now afford to buy a liter of fuel for that amount. Before we know it now, a liter of fuel is, some place they sell 600 plus. It has even tripled what the ex-president talked about. So that was how it started. So if they are saying want to, definitely, before we know it, I'm telling you, before the fourth quarter of this year, there's going to be a hike in the price of fuel.
So that's not like they increase the fuel from 610 naira to 1,200. Can't possible.
No, I'm a transporter. Before when they are selling it 200 naira, we know how much I'm taking it home with my family. But this time around they are selling it 600. Nothing much again. Before pay those people that have this pack, before buying fuel, nothing will remain again.
The cost of living will be high because when the fuel increase, everything too will increase. So at least both the transport, everything, the food will increase. So it will affect the masses.
Can't possible. Even government have denied it this morning. I heard from radio say nothing like that. They are even prepared to reduce the fuel price down when the refinery started working.
The way they are carrying that rumor yesterday, I was telling them categorically that they cannot increase the fuel. If they increase the fuel, they want to create a problem to this country.
Now you've heard it all from the people. Keep listening to VOP TV. I'm Omolola Akodo.
Welcome back. The Labour Party says a former president spokesman to ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo and Goodluck Jonathan, Dr. Doyin Okupe, has always been a People's Democratic Party PDP man. The National Publicity Secretary to the Labour Party, Mr. Obiora Ifo, told newsmen today that Dr. Okupe should not be where his ideology would be confused. He was reacting to Okupe's resignation from the Labour Party in a letter dated Monday, 8 January 2024. Recall that Dr. Okupe, in December 21st, 2022, resigned as Peter Obi's campaign director over conviction of corruption. His resignation as the Director General of the Labour Party's Presidential Campaign Council followed money laundering conviction by a federal high court in Abuja. Dr. Okupe had, following his conviction, subsequently paid a sum of 13 million naira after Justice Ijeoma Ojukwu found him guilty and receiving over 200 million naira cash from National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki. He paid the 13 million naira fine just few hours to the deadline given by the court. He was replaced by Chief Akin Oshuntoki. Joining us live this evening on the 9 p.m. news is Dr. Moses Paul. He is an author, The Nigerian Dream, thought leader, social activist, and member Obidati Campaign Council. A very good evening to you, Dr. Moses.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Moses.
All right, quickly, let's just get into it almost immediately. What is your reaction to the statement made by the Labour Party as regarding Dr. Okupe?
I'm not aware if there is already an official statement by the Labour Party.
Yes, there is. That's what you just read now.
Yes, there's a statement. The Labour Party said that they feel that Dr. Doyin Okupe has always been a PDP man. That's what they had to say.
They said, okay.
So maybe he's going back to his original party. So what do you have to say about that?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I've been on flights coming in from Ghana.
Okay. That's okay.
That's so haven't. I think it's not. I mean, I would agree largely with that, even though sadly to say, because Dr. Doyin Okupe is I would say is a personal friend, like a father, somebody who I consider a veteran in Nigeria's political landscape.
Okay.
And as a veteran is not somebody who is floppy when it comes to decision making. Of course, he understood what he was going into before he joined the Obidati campaign train, which of course is people-centered. And he's right to say, and holding him on the grounds of ideology. He didn't leave on any personal interest. He spoke directly, because I saw what he put out, that he's leaving because he has always been a centered right person, not a leftist like we are. We are people oriented. We are a people party. We believe in social justice. We about equality. That's what the Labour Party is for, you know. And in that regard, of course we miss him. I feel very bad that somebody who we have come to know in that regard will go back to where he's coming from, knowing fully well who we are before he decided to jump on the ship. That's
okay. Now, the quick question I want to ask now is from the statement from Labour Party, particularly the Abure faction. They've come out to say that following his money laundering conviction by the Federal High Court in Abuja, that can also be a part of the reason why he is at this point leaving and resigning from the Obidati campaign movement. What's your position about this alleged accusation?
I mean, you're talking about the factional group who, of course, had issues with him even at the state level because he decided to micromanage the campaign mobilization directives and fund, you know, etc. And so that's what you call witch hunt. I mean, and in any case, the case of what he had to pay for the alleged corruption in court case was something that happened under the Jonathan administration. And of course, there are several other people who are there today like the Vanika and other, there are a barrage of people who fell into that same group, but nothing happened to them. I mean, so it's really not good and nice when you hear such things from people who, and I think even the media should do better, because these are people that are not constitutionally recognized, you know, in terms of the faction. And so it's a no-brainer, if you ask me, you know, attacking his person rather than going with the issue for why he left the party.
Okay, now you just made mention of the issue and the reason why he left the party as being a very factual statement that you might be privy, you know, to know about. Maybe you just need to help us a little bit from your perspective, why you think Dr. Okupe left the party at this time.
Yes.
I mean, it's always important to hold people by their words. He said he's living on ideological basis, that the Labour Party is a complete leftist as against a centered right from where he is coming from.
Which is PDP?
Which is the PDP, and you know, where what is known, where he's always been.
Yes.
You know, and I'm saying that it is sad. I feel sad because you're going back to the same people that have suppressed, pulverized, kept Nigeria where it is for all these years. The reason you are seeing a movement being born, the new Nigeria movement or the obedient movement, is because it's a response to the corruption. It's a response to degradation. It's a response to lack of having young people lead their own country. It's a response to all the things that have kept us down as a country. And this is why Dr. Donyo Okupe joined, you know, the leftists in the first place. But he's saying that on that ideological, on the ideological issue, which is on which the Labour Party is anchored, is why he's now leaving to go back to the PDP where he's coming from. I don't have to figure out any other reason for why he's leaving other than what he said he's leaving. But it's sad to say that, because I call him Baba, he's going back to the people who have suppressed Nigeria.
Okay, I'm going to come back to what you just said, but before I get to that, you just spoke about the obedience movement being for the youth and for the younger people leading the country, and it looking different, being different. Do you think, what do you think, why are you so convinced that it's different from what others have been doing, what other parties have been representing? Because
at this juncture, it's also important to educate people, because a lot of people who are not into the political participation do not understand the difference between the obedient movement vis-a-vis the Labour Party. The Labour Party, political parties, whether it's PDP, APC, Labour Party, ANPP, AA, whatever party they are just concerned about two particular things. They're concerned about the cycles of election, to take power and to hold governance. That's all. The obedient movement is a follow-up, if you ask me, from the NSAS, if you would say, or the agitations that have always existed, moving into a more organized advocacy, into a mobilization, you know, taking advantage of the political dispensation of 2023, for which, of course, characterized by the personality of Mr. Peter Obi, who is very frugal, because you're owing me money, but I'm seeing that I can come to your house and you have chicken, barbecue, all kinds of things. You're living lavishly, and you're just owing me 10,000 and you're not paying me. This is what the Nigerian government represents, you know, as it is right now, and has always been. So the young people are saying, come on, this makes no sense. So the frugality of and the characteristics of Mr. Peter Obi as a person is what fuel and galvanize this young people energy and essence and spirit. So it's a movement. It's beyond just the cycle of election. A movement is just like you have the civil rights movement.
Now, would you now agree now that the insinuators at this point, would you say that the insinuators were right, that Mr. Peter Obi is using the NSAS movement as a rope to get to the Nigerian people, particularly the fact that, yes, you just mentioned now that the NSAS movement, the Obedient movement, is just like a continuation of the NSAS movement. So are insinuators not right to say that Mr. Peter Obi practically used the NSAS movement to form and create this Obidati movement to getting into the Nigerian politics heavy the way he did the last
I think it's almost like you are putting the cart before. I think it's the other way around, because the movement chose Mr. Peter Obi. He did not choose the movement. The energy of the young people, the agitation, the vexation, the anger, the zero tolerance for corruption, for malpractices, for all the evil things that are happening, the lack of governance, you know, the political charade and what you call rascality that has been going on in Nigeria, that energy, the response to that chose Mr. Peter Obi. That is what you are seeing. So it's the other way around. They chose him. Whether you call it the NSAS energy or the obedient energy or the New Nigeria movement, they chose the man because the report card that was presented before us prior to the 2023 general election, on one hand, you have an Atiku. On the other hand, you have the current Nigeria president.
Now, Dr. Paul, now the elections have come and gone.
Yes.
And Supreme Court have made their judgment. Do you think Mr. Peter Obi would gone for another presidential election come 2027?
You know, I've said this.
Sorry.
Yes.
Just to add to that, do you think it's going to be under the Labour Party, considering the internal crisis going on now?
That's also important
in the party.
I think let me start with whether it's going to be under the Labour Party. I think largely it's still going to be under the Labour Party. I think largely, considering the fact that what I said before, that parties are just vehicles. So even if Mr. Peter Obi leaves the Labour Party and joins another party, they are just vehicles. They are just not. That's just what they are. And if he gets there, right now with the Labour Party, I think we have all the tires are punctured. The car is not doing too well.
Yeah.
The other party, there is one that the engine is completely knocked. So even if he goes there, there are repairs to be done. And I think for what has happened in the last maybe 12 months plus with the advent of Mr. Peter Obi, the Labour Party is still very repairable, if you ask me. And as somebody who has played critical role in even within that circle, a lot of conversations and a lot of realignment is going on. I think I'm very optimistic that the Labour Party will pull through and that Mr. Peter Obi will still use that vehicle, but it's still a vehicle. But to answer your question regarding whether or not, or whether it's going to run for, a movement has already been born. That movement that movement warehoused him. And I will tell you here, and I say it on my honor, because the INEC as we have it today completely neglected the guidelines of the electoral laws. This is not my word. The bill that was signed into law by General Muhammadu Buhari, which is one of the best legacy that regime left for Nigeria, to allow Nigerians to vote electronically and to allow an upload through the beavers and a declaration of that was completely suspended by corrupt INEC, because that's what they did. They suspended the guidelines as led by Professor Yakub Mahmood, because I'm holding that particular individual responsible because he's the head of that. Now, this is the point.
Oh, well, that's practically your opinion. It's not in line with our position.
Yes, but I speak for the Constitution of Nigeria, so I'm fine. That's okay. For INEC to come out and declare that Mr. Peter Obi had 6 million votes, I want to tell Nigerians that you are seeing the next president of Nigeria going. I'm not even going by the stolen mandate. I'm not going by whatever other result. I'm going by the INEC result. That today's president had 8 million and Mr. Peter Obi had 6 million. When President, the previous president, retired General Muhammadu Buhari, had 2 million, was it 2011 or so? The whole country started looking in his direction because data is what ruled the world. And I've said it's about my Ebon and friend. If today Omoyele Sowore has 1 million votes, the whole world will begin to see a future president.
Now I'm going to just hold you on that. So the present opposition party, well, a lot of people want to say Labour Party isn't that much of an opposition party, and I'm talking about PDP right now. There is the plan for a coalition of parties with the PDP to give a very strong opposition party. At this point, yes, you might not be able to speak for Labour, but do you see the Labour Party as another major opposition party to the next election come 2027? That's one. Secondly, do you also think that the Labour Party and Mr. Peter Obi at this point would not just go like the wind, just like we see in another 4 years, and then come back in 2027, maybe before the beginning of 2027, to start campaigning again?
First of all, the data is there. Don't forget that on the account of Mr. Peter Obi, there's a 10 million fresh new voter that was added to the 84 million voter that existed in 2019. 10 million. And I stand by the data. For somebody who, don't forget that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came in with what? With 8 million as against the 15 or 18 million of the previous election in 2019. Now you're talking about the difference of 2 million between him and Mr. Peter Obi. For somebody to get 6 million, I don't know what you are thinking to say. This is data before us. But much more than that, when you talk about the opposition, whether you're talking in terms of PDP or the Labour Party, is galvanized under the essence, the energy of the obedient movement. And I speak largely for that because when you talk about the obedient movement, you're talking about people in the APC and also in the PDP, as also in the Labour Party. And this is where the dichotomy is, because the obedient movement is much, much bigger than any of the parties. And the person on whose essence the movement is built is Mr. Peter Obi. It's like you have a very beautiful girl. She's the new Miss Nigeria, and somebody wants to come and marry. The marriage is on her terms. If you have a latest car right now in the world and you want to buy it, it is on the terms of that car. The newest, the biggest guy on the block right now in our political scene, and I dare say in Africa, is Mr. Peter Obi.
Okay, I'm going to hold you on that. Hopefully, come 2027, when the next election comes up, do you think that Mr. Peter Obi would not work with these other names that we know presently, the ones who have been indicted, the ones who have issues with the FCC? Do you think he's still going to work alone, just like he did work alone in the last election? Do you think
the movement?
He would want to continue that movement with the clean slate that he started with?
If you say he did with a clean slate, I know he's going to do, he's going to stick to his conviction. He's a man of conviction. What I know that is going to be different is the negotiation with the movement. The obedient movement in 2023 went to the polls and voted. They didn't negotiate their votes and they did not defend their votes. I can tell you that in 2027 is going to be different. They're not only going to vote, they're going to negotiate their vote and they're going to defend their vote. But as concerning Mr. Peter Obi, of course, I can't speak categorically, but what I do know is, and I take your word for it, he's going to go with the clean slate that he's dogged at it. Whatever it is, that clean slate is, he's going to stay with that. And like I said, he is the bride. So whoever is coming will have to come on his terms.
Finally, Donye Okukwe has resigned now. Where do you think he's going to? Going back to PDP? Or maybe the ruling party, do you think?
I think it's an interesting one, and it will be good to have Mr. Donye Okukwe on that. I can't wait to also hear.
All right, thank you so very much, Dr. Moses Paul, author, The Nigerian Dream, thought leader, social activist, and member of Obidati campaign. Thank you so very much for being here with us. All right, just in a bit, the news will continue shortly, just after now. Stay with us.
It's no longer news that the NNPC held plan to increase the price of petrol to reflect the current market condition and ensure the sustainability of the petroleum industry. The proposed increase aims to address the challenges faced by the corporation and support its operations. However, the NNPCL has debunked the news, saying there is no plan to increase the price of petrol anytime soon. Today, VOP TV is out here on the street to hear what the people have to say on this.
And this has always been what we've experienced in Nigeria as a nation. First, you hear some rumor, then before you know it, you start seeing it getting close. You know, I remember during the time of Obasanjo's regime, the former president of Nigeria was saying that Nigerians could afford to buy a bottle of beer for 250, 250 naira, 200 naira those days, and they can now afford to buy a liter of fuel for that amount. Before we know it now, a liter of fuel is some place they sell 600 plus.
Welcome back. A federal high court in Abuja has ordered the remand of Professor Cyril Ndinfon, suspended dean of Faculty of Law, University of Calabar, UNICAL, who was charged with alleged sexual harassment. Professor Ndinfon, who is being prosecuted by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, before Justice James Omotosho, however, pleaded not guilty to the 4-count charge. The ICPC, though its counsel Ebenezer Shogunle, filed the charge marked FHC/ABJ/CR51123 on October 30, 2023 against Professor Ndinfon. Professor Ndinfon was alleged to have committed while being a public officer charged with responsibility for the certification of students as fit in learning and character as a prerequisite for the award of bachelor's degree in law and admission into the Nigerian Law School. After the charge was read to the suspended UNICAL professor, the embattled lecturer pleaded not guilty to the counts.
The Kogi state government has disposed 4 traditional rulers, including a first-class traditional ruler, the Ohimegi Igu Konto Kafe and Alhaji Abdulrazak Koto. Koto was subsequently banished to Rijo local government area of Niger State. The state governor, Alhaji Yahya Bello, also appointed Alhaji Salisu Saidu, popularly known as SAS, to replace the deposed Omihigi. The governor also announced the appointment of Alhaji Ahmed Anaji, who until now is the Ohi of Okewen, as the new Ohinohi of Ibiraland. The governor's address to the appointments delivered shortly after a meeting held with members of the State Executive Committee reads that the action followed through the state's traditional and chieftaincy law, rules and regulations, and all the due processes. The governor added that some decisions were taken on some stools after due intervention by the government to resolve the lingering controversy that have characterized the state.
Still on the news just after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A yet-to-be-identified truck driver has died in a pile-up on a bridge in the Ojuelegba area of Lagos State. This is coming barely 24 hours after a truck driver and his conductor sustained severe injuries after their truck fell off the bridge at Ijara while struggling for right-of way with another truck. Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, Dr. Olufemi Damilola Oke Osanyitolu, said the crash involved 3 trucks. Dr. Oke Osanyitolu said around 1:37 a.m. on Monday, the agency's response team met a multiple accident involving 3 articulated trucks on Ojuelegba Bridge. He explained that the LASEMA team was returning from a recovery operation in the Ijora axis of Lagos when it encountered accident. According to him, the accident involved two Shakam F2000 Dangote trucks, registration numbers unknown, laden with sand, and a DAF truck with the registration number EKY93YC laden with chicken feed. He said one person identified as a truck driver was met dead at the scene and others injured. The permanent secretary further stated that all affected vehicles had been recovered off the bridge to the Igbonre office of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority.
And to some business stories, Globalcom subscribers will not be able to make calls to MTN lines soon due to the non-settlement of interconnect charges. The Nigerian Communications Commission can disclose this today in a public notice signed by Director, Public Affairs Department, Ruben Morka. According to the new NCC notice, these lines will not be able to make calls to MTN lines from January the 18th, 2024. The NCC stated that having examined the application and circumstances surrounding the indebtedness, determined that Globalcom does not have the sufficient or justifiable reason for non-payment of the interconnect charges. The NCC revealed that at the expiration of 10 days from the date of this notice, subscribers of Globalcom will no longer be able to make calls to MTN, but will be able to receive inbound calls to the Globalcom network. It was gathered that Glo owes MTN about 6 billion naira for interconnect fees.
The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, has dissolved the board of directors for Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company, KAEDC, over its inability to pay 110 billion naira debt owed to the Nigerian electricity supply industry. NERC, in an order dated January 1, 2024, and signed by its chairman and vice chairman, Misiliu Oseni Sabusi Garba, said the order was also due to the receivership of the company not being able to get a new buyer of the company on time. The order stated that the company was owing 110 billion naira to the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trade and TCN's market operator since 2015 till date. The order also stated that the receivership headed by the Afrexim Bank had been given 60 days notice to state why its license should not be cancelled, with another 30 days given in July last year. It noted that the bank requested for 4 to 6 months to finalize the divestment process and that they could not provide the bank guarantees required to secure KEDC's market obligation. The order therefore stated that the failure of the company to get new owner to enable it to meet up with the financial obligations has led to all directors of the KAEDC removed from office, and the board of directors stands dissolved and the exercise of powers vested in the commission by Section 75 of the Electricity Act. According to the order, Dr. Umar Abubakar Hashidu is hereby appointed as the administrator of KAEDC in furtherance to Section 75 of the EA.
And some entertainment stories. Music executive and estranged husband of singer Tiwa Savage, Tunji Balogun, popularly known as T-Blaze, has threatened to teach Davido a lesson for allegedly disrespecting his family. In an Instagram post today, he lamented that despite the love himself, Tiwa Savage and their son Jamil showed towards Davido's first daughter, Imade, he disrespected his family. T-Blaze, who didn't disclose how the singer disrespected his family, vowed that his family would be the last he would ever take such. In the post, he said would wait till the Grammy Awards is over before giving details of what transpired. They warned you not to use a very strong word. I will teach you a life lesson about having money, sense, and respect. I paused it after you enjoy your Grammy, like I told Tunde Ednot, just from the kindness of my heart, he wrote. Davido is yet to react to that threat.
And finally, today is a sports update. Now on to sport news. The Super Eagles of Nigeria lost 2-0 in a friendly game this afternoon against Guinea in preparation for the 2023 African Cup of Nations scheduled to start on the 13th of February in Côte d'Ivoire. The friendly match was played at the Baniya Stadium in Abu Dhabi. The official X page of the Super Eagles, which gave timely updates on the match, noted that Guinea scored the first goal in the 14th minute of the game. The game ended 2-0 as Nigeria lost to Guinea in their first pre-AFCON friendly against Guinea. Nigeria is vying for a fourth AFCON title, having won in 1980, 1994 and 2013. For more stories, let's join our sports desk. And to wrap up the VOP TV news and report, here are the headline stories we read earlier. Court orders federal government to pay 100 million naira to ex-Cbn Governor Emefiele for unlawful detention.
AFCC invites suspended Humanitarian Affairs Minister Betta Edu over palliative fund diversion.
Peter Obi says leadership failure threatening Africa's growth. Thank you for staying with us. I am Kayla Abraham.
And I am David Edwin. Do have a good evening.